Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 8:11 a.m. on the East Coast, a little bit later than I usually get these videos out. I'm sorry, Wednesday, May 22nd. We're going to break down this showdown slate a day early. You're going to say, oh, there's no basketball tonight, Sal. Well, why not get a day ahead of it? I'll then break down the MLB today, maybe go over some more things for WNBA. I'm excited. We're doing a video every day. Are you kidding me? This is 365. This is 24/7 here. I'm not taking a day off, and even if there was no NBA forever now, we still got WNBA, we still got MLB, we still got PGA, we still got just strategy talk, NFL offseason, although the NFL is a lot closer than you think when you consider the preseasons in what, August? So yeah, I'm pretty excited. So yeah, let's break down into this slate. If you're new here, my name's Sal Vetri. I cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL streets, NBA, MLB. We'll be doing an MLB video today. There's already a golf video out for this week. I might do another one just recapping some of the value type plays and guys that I'm even more on after I do some in-depth analysis. So check all that stuff out on the channel. There's some strategy videos, things like that for NFL, upcoming NBA. I might do some for MLB too as the NBA season comes to an end. If you're new here, let me know in the comments. I want to know. Like the video if you're returning. If you're a returning subscriber, you know how much I appreciate you. We're approaching. We should hit it very soon, 4,300 subscribers. We did the 4,000 subscriber giveaway. We did the $10 PayPal the other day. I reached out to somebody who won that one for just projecting who would be the best captain, spun a little wheel, picked it. So for this game, comment down below. You have to be a subscriber. You have to like the video. So those two things are needed. A little app tells me if you've done that. And then just comment down below, who do you think will be the highest scoring player below 6,000 or below? So that doesn't, pretty much below 6,000. So Brooke Lopez counts. So Brooke Lopez or below, who do you think is the highest scoring player? Your options are pretty slim, right? It's Brooke Lopez, Eric Bledsoe, Serge Ibaka, Mirotic, Powell, Green, Hill. So there's a decent amount of options. I like this challenge. Just coming up with it on the spot. Comment that down below. The highest scoring player in this game from the $6,000 or below range. So 6,000 being the highest, not Marcus All at 66. Brooke Lopez at 6,000. Like the video. Do all those things. There's a bunch of free stuff down below. Also, Draft Dashboard is continuing to sponsor us throughout the rest of the playoffs. So appreciative of them. Check out their tools. I use their tools not only for the NBA, getting more into MLB now, as you've seen with my videos. I baseline some of my stats, some of my things like that with theirs. I look at their lineup optimizers to try and take my own biases out of it, see what kind of stacks I can get in there. You can do individual player exposures for the NBA and things like that on their lineup optimizer. You can check out just some of their quick cheat sheets, things like that. So check out Draft Dashboard. It's linked down below, 30 days for $1. I see that some people have been signing up over the past day or two since they've been sponsoring us. So appreciate that. Let me know what you think about the tool if you're new to the tool. And yeah, it's one of the cheaper tools in the industry, and it will reduce your research time. So check that out for sure. There is the little sponsor plug. Let's break down into this video. So not a lot's going to change. And again, we're a day ahead here, so maybe something drastic is going to happen. And in the flight, Giannis rolls his ankle, and then this whole slate I got to redo. But we're going to hope that those little things don't really happen and that there's really no injury concerns here at all. So looking into this past game, don't break down too much into a lot of those minutes that you saw in the game logs. Pretty much stabilized from what you've been predicting, or I've been projecting, whatever you're going off of for minutes for the whole series. Because last game, there was about 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes at the end of the game where a lot of the starters, and let me just get this out of here. Remind me tomorrow. A lot of the starters just did not play in the last 3.5, 4 minutes of the game. And then also you have guys who were in foul trouble, like Pascal Siakam, seeing 40% less time due to foul trouble. He got his second and third foul midway through the third quarter. Did not come back into the game that whole half, so missed some time there. Came back to start the third quarter. Got his fourth foul, came out. Came back in, and right away pretty much got his fifth foul, came out. And then there was a blowout. So he saw about 40% less minutes. He saw about 13, 14 less minutes than he would have seen, or actually it might have been even more than that if we quickly look at what Siakam finished with here on Popcorn Machine, the handy dandy tool that I love so much. Siakam finished with 23. So yeah, he had about at minimum 15 less minutes, I would imagine, if this game would have stayed close / he doesn't get in foul trouble. So where do those 15 minutes go? Well, I'd imagine, and the direct check-in, the direct substitute you would imagine was Serge Ibaka, but it wasn't. Ibaka checked in for Marcus All. For the foul trouble, Fred VanVleet checked in for Serge Ibaka. So Fred VanVleet, we've seen him play about 10 more minutes than he's been playing, played 25, and I just chalk that up to Serge Ibaka playing 15 to 17 less minutes in this game. So I give Fred VanVleet, I take some of those minutes away from him that he saw in the last game. I believe that Serge Ibaka was going to see 16 to 17 minutes in this game, if not for the Pascal Siakam injury. We saw Marcus All see less minutes, which pretty much went to Ibaka. So Marcus All getting 33 minutes in that last game, although some of that is also due to this blowout run. So at the end of the game, there's a lot of just up in the air in terms of these Raptors minutes. Siakam's obviously not going to be playing 23 minutes. He's going to be playing in this next game, if it's staying close and down to the wire, 38 minutes. I have him projected for that today. And you could expect Fred VanVleet then to see less run. You could expect some other guys to see less run. So where you can give more minutes to Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka, and now that I'm talking about this out loud, thank you for listening. I have 26 minutes for Danny Green. I think that's fair. He played 25, and that's including the blowout. So he kind of got back into this rotation. I just don't know if Siakam messed any of those minutes up. Ibaka I have at 16 minutes. Fred VanVleet I have at 15. I kind of want to put Fred VanVleet, or I kind of want to put Ibaka somewhere around 17, 18 minutes, and it's easy to do that. I take 2 off of Danny Green. He's got 24, or he's got 25, and we're at Ibaka 17. So I'm actually going to do that. Danny Green to 25, Ibaka to 17. It just doesn't feel right because Danny Green did play 25 minutes in this game. He was going to close out the game and play around 27, 28 minutes. So giving him 25 as a median does not feel right. And Fred VanVleet, yes, I think he does not see extended run. So actually, let's do this instead. Let's give Fred VanVleet 14 minutes and Danny Green 26. I feel better about that. And you can see it's very easy to manipulate these minutes just by doing that, but you have to do something that makes sense for you. If people are going to jump back on Fred VanVleet after the last game without looking into any type of context, and you have an extra day to look into that now, so it's lazy if you're not looking into it and you're putting money behind Fred VanVleet's 25-minute game thinking, oh, they discovered something, play Fred VanVleet. No, that's not the case. They could not play their second best player, most likely, in Pascal Siakam for half the game almost. So let's break down into this. We'll start with, I guess, the blacklist is what people have been calling it in the comments. Some people saying, oh, you put him on the blacklist, that means you got to play him, as if I'm always wrong. Although somebody jumped into the comments at like 2 in the morning. I woke up and got this notification when I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And I was like, oh, well, that's a pretty crummy thing to get to start your day. If you want to count 2 in the morning as the start of the day, I blocked the comment. So somebody just using some profanity, some derogatory names towards me because I blacked out Serge Ibaka so they didn't play them. One, that's on you. You can listen to my content all you want. I do say that this is what I would do, but obviously you're putting your money where your mouth is at the end of the day. 2, Serge Ibaka saw increased run because Pascal Siakam got in foul trouble. So if you expect me to predict who's getting in foul trouble that night as well, then I don't know. I'm not Houdini here. So for that person saying that I lost you money for your daughter's bike or whatever the person said, that's on you. That's on you. Don't put your money up then if you can't afford it. Budget this thing, man. So let's get into it. I'm going to start blacking people out. Pat. So I have, once again, the same as yesterday, 17 guys seeing minutes in this game. You had 23 guys see minutes in the last game or whatever it was, but that was because the last 3 minutes, a lot of people got their blowout run in. Pat Connaughton, he got that blowout run. He got 4 minutes there. Pat Connaughton saw 12 minutes in the game, and he got 4 minutes of blowout run. So he would have seen 8 minutes. I have him at 9 today. You can take as much minutes as you want off of Pat Connaughton. I'm going to block him out. I'm going to quickly block out Fred VanVleet. I don't want any of that noise of people thinking he's going to play 25 minutes, and I hope they do because there's your leverage for some spots. And now it gets tricky. It gets really tricky in terms of who you want to play. I blocked out Serge Ibaka the last time we did this, which was yesterday, believe it or not. And I am kind of fine going there once again, especially if people are going to be elevating him in terms of just what they saw last game, when I don't think those are stabilized minutes. I mean, Marc Gasol's playing incredible. 33 minutes for Marc Gasol. Probably closer to 35 if it doesn't blow out. That's sort of his minimum point at this point. And then if you're going to get Siakam playing in a close game, closer to a 38, 40 minute mark, it's really hard for me to imagine Serge Ibaka gets out there unless they run this massive lineup. And I just don't see that happening. So him getting out there would mean I think he sees this 17 minutes sort of tops. So I'm fine going right back to the well and blocking out Serge Ibaka. And if people want to say, oh, how'd you do that? Just don't do it then. That's just what I would do. So 17-person player pool is now quickly down to 14. So let's talk about some things now that we have that done. On the higher level, Giannis and Kawhi has been this factor, and I don't want to pat myself on the back, but there it is. No, I'm kidding. That's kind of cocky. But Chris Middleton, I said if I was not going to go Giannis or Kawhi yesterday, I would go Chris Middleton. And I mean, probably got lucky more so than anything. It was just his price point was too low for me. The fact that he goes out and he's needed as captain, I'm pretty sure, and he scores 30 real points and he's going off for 37 and 6 or whatever it was, yeah, that helps. Now he's up to 9,400. So you missed the boat on Chris Middleton. You can surely go back to him into showdown slate where you realistically are picking from a pool of like 10 to 12 viable players in your lineup. So yeah, going back to Chris Middleton, the only other all-star in the slate makes sense. But he's not 7,400 anymore. He's now 9,400. And he's going to come with increased ownership. But the fact that he played well in the last game, a guy who's a shooter, that bodes well for him, especially confidence-wise going back home. So Chris Middleton, I'm not going to black out Chris Middleton, but I might take a stand and say, I got my Chris Middleton game. I'm going to go away from that now. We haven't gotten our Giannis game in 2 games. He's going back home. Maybe that helps him out. Kawhi played decent in the last game, right? I mean, not terrible, but not great. So in terms of these upper tier guys, who do I want? What am I looking at for a captain, whatever it might be? Well, I'm looking at Giannis over Kawhi. The projections have Giannis favored by a good amount here, by 7 points today, and it's been around this range, if not a little bit different, depending on if they're home or away. I give some sorts of boosts. But Giannis, I have at 59 fantasy points. Kawhi just under 53. Let's call it 53. So a 6 point difference there. And I like Giannis going back home. The price point is now so close between the two. We were used to a 600 to 800 price difference. Now it's $200. And Kawhi Leonard has been great. He's probably going to have to play 42 to 44 minutes in these games, and he is actually dealing with a little bit of an injury. So give me Giannis, who 38 minutes should be his low point in this game if it stays close, and we might see our first 40-point Giannis game or 40-minute Giannis game in the playoffs. So stick on that unless we already have seen one in this series then. So I'm with Giannis over Kawhi. They're just way too close in price to the point where Giannis is a 1.7 fantasy point per minute guy when Kawhi is a 1.3, 1.35 in the postseason. Even if you give me 4 more minutes of Kawhi on average, it still makes me want Giannis way more for 6 more fantasy points, and the price point is not that different. If Giannis is $1,000 more, we start to have that discussion. But I do want both of them in my lineup. This is not saying I want to fade Kawhi or Giannis. I think that you're going to continue to need both of these guys because their usage on their teams and their point per minute production is just way higher than anybody else on the team. Nobody else on the Raptors actually wants to shoot the ball. They're scared, especially in the fourth quarter, to shoot the ball outside of maybe Kyle Lowry. So give me Giannis in the captain spot, then Kawhi. If you wanted me to tell you a third captain option like I did the other day with Middleton, I'm going to go to Siakam. $8,000 Siakam, this is a pricing overreaction. He's not as cheap as Middleton was at $7,400 a few days ago, but Siakam at $8,000, yeah, that's way too cheap. He comes off of a game where he got into foul trouble and then he lost 4 minutes at the end of the game due to a blowout run, so I don't expect that to happen once again, or at least I'm not going to try and predict or project him to get into foul trouble. So if you give me Siakam, who was just needed, I think, for the captain spot in Game 3, if you give me him for 40 minutes in a competitive game here, he's just as likely as, not maybe just as likely, but the next most likely person outside of Kawhi or Giannis to be going off in these games, I imagine. So give me Pascal Siakam. I still am fine with Chris Middleton, but now the price difference between Middleton and Siakam is $1,400, meaning Middleton's more expensive. It's not anymore Middleton was cheaper by $1,000 to $1,400 to Siakam. So I'll take Pascal Siakam. I think he's the only other guy that can really get you there. Middleton can surely get you there, but for the price, I lean Siakam. People are going to say, why are you hating on Kyle Lowry? I'm not. I think he plays 38 minutes. He played less minutes in the last game because of the blowout. So he would have played 39 in that last game. I have him at 38 here. If I bump Kyle Lowry up to 39 minutes, then I can just take one off Danny Green, give him 25, take one off of whoever I really want to. Norman Powell, I can give 30 and give Kyle Lowry 40. Whichever way I do, I think Kyle Lowry's playing big minutes as a point guard here. You're getting less Eric Bledsoe on the other side because he just can't shoot as of late, which might not even bode well for Kyle Lowry because George Hill is still a fine defender and so is Malcolm Brogdon. Lowry, I have projected for 33 fantasy points today at his price of $8,800. It's just, or tomorrow I have him projected for. It's just too much. And that's not to say he can't go out and score 42 fantasy points because he can, but as a median, I have him projected for 33.5 and $8,800. That is just way too much. He grades out a lot worse than about 3 to 4 guys who are cheaper than him. So I'm fine if you get to him just in utility spot. I'm not going to be prioritizing Kyle Lowry. So that's the top end. That's $8,000 and above. Giannis, Kawhi for captain in that order, and then I lean Pascal Siakam. Now in the 7K, 5K to 7K range, I guess we can go. Malcolm Brogdon did not have the greatest game the last time out. He's $7,000. I think that price stabilized after the last game. Still saw big minutes. He was going to see 33 if the blowout didn't come. Have him projected for 32 here. So I do like that. I do like that the minutes are going up. I do like that people are probably going to think that he only was going to play 27, 28 minutes in the last one when really he was going to play 32, 33. So getting Brogdon in your utility spot could be an edge. It's tough for me to recommend Brogdon, though, over the guy who's below him in Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol's price is not coming up as fast as it should. A 55-point game, albeit double overtime, played extra 10 minutes still, though, 55-point game. And then over a 40-point game and only 33 minutes of play. And I say only 33 because he hasn't seen that low in a while. He's probably going to be seeing 35 minutes, if not more. Which I'm actually going to project Marc Gasol for more right now as we're talking about this. 35 for Marc Gasol. I'm going to take 2 off of Norman Powell, give him 30. Whatever you feel about that, maybe I'll try and get the minutes somewhere else. You can get these projections. They'll be updated, all this stuff, over on Patreon later today. So, or you can go over there, support me as well, whatever you feel like doing if you feel like you need to. So I'm giving Marc Gasol his 35 because of the blowout run. He's been consistently getting that. I'll finally take them off of Norman Powell, and if I can't take them off of Norman Powell, then I'll figure out another way to get one off of Powell, one off of Ibaka, whatever it is. Realistically, though, I should be taking those minutes off of Serge Ibaka here. So let me just do this real quickly, and I'm going to just put Serge Ibaka to 15 minutes. And if you don't like that, that's fine. But this is just a median. I could change that. I can take some off of Norman Powell, of course. So that's where I'm at right now. I have Marc Gasol being a very good play, projected for 38.5 points today. This probably should get run down a little bit based on matchup being away. 37.5 points is what that goes to if I alter that a little bit. So 37.5 points for Marc Gasol. That's obviously fine. I am, however, tempted to take a stand on Marc Gasol. You're going to black out Marc Gasol? This guy's going off. He's cheap or cheapish. Yes, I think he's a viable captain. He'd probably be my fourth favorite captain option behind Pascal Siakam, and then I'd probably get to your Chris Middletons. But Marc Gasol has had two really good games in a row. He's going to have insane ownership. He's going to be out there for a lot of minutes. He's been doing fine the last two games. So it's risky. It's risky to go underweight on him. The fact that I think he's a good captain option is probably a little silly to say that I would not play him or not play him as much. But he's going to have insane ownership and insane hype based on his past two performances, which he should. But ways to gain edges in these showdown slates, get a guy out of there. Go to Brook Lopez, who I don't even like Brook Lopez, to be honest with you, in terms of being a better performer than Marc Gasol in this spot. But at least Lopez is going back home, and really what you're relying on from Lopez is just will he hit his three-pointers, allowing him to stay on the court for an extra 2 to 3 minutes in that game, and obviously getting you your three-point bonuses, things like that. So that's a way to be different. I'm not even sure I'd go there, but it's a spot that I see on this slate in terms of how can you pivot to be different. Marc Gasol is going to have a ton of ownership. Marc Gasol, more times than not, will outscore Brook Lopez here, but it's not 100% of the time, and it's probably not what the ownership will reflect. So I don't even know if I do it. I haven't been playing the showdown slate, so I probably won't even play. But I don't even know if I would do it, go Brook Lopez over Marc Gasol. It doesn't have to be Brook Lopez. It could be Eric Bledsoe. It could be Brogdon and some expensive guys and some cheap guys. I'm just saying if you don't have Marc Gasol in your lineup, that's not a terrible thing. I don't think he's a must play, as I have been saying for the past few days that he is, just because the ownership now is well above what it should be. Now, if we're going to get some news that Serge Ibaka is going to be highly owned, or even Fred VanVleet, and that's going to take some of the ownership off of a specific teammate, and Ibaka would directly take it off of Gasol, then sure, that's just the public being overreacting to recency bias, even more so than Marc Gasol's, because they want those value type plays. So I like Marc Gasol, but if I had to take a stand somewhere, it's probably taking a stand on Marc Gasol not being in a few of my lineups compared to what the field is going to have him at. If he's going to be owned by the field in the 60% clip range or whatever it might be, I'd probably come in the 30% and be half the field in that and just have some sort of leverage in a showdown slate. If you're playing one lineup, obviously, you have to make the decision. I'd probably play Marc Gasol and leave more money on the table to be different if you're playing one lineup. But that's just me. So that was a good amount of time there. Brook Lopez is kind of like Kyle Lowry in the same sense that I'm meh to him. He can go out there. His ceiling, realistically, we saw it in game one, just splashing down threes, picking up blocks. He has a ceiling in the 50s on this guy. But realistically, especially with this matchup, if he's not nailing every single three or just shooting 21 times like he did in game one, and for some reason people thought that would continue into game two. I don't know if you can smell this coffee right now, but this coffee smells incredible. I just opened it up a little bit. Oh my God, so good. But anyways, back to Brook Lopez. Yeah. I don't really ever get to Brook Lopez, but I'm going to leave him in this player pool just because I think he's a decent pivot option off of a higher owned Marc Gasol if possible. Eric Bledsoe, 5,600. He's been playing pitiful. He cannot shoot. He's 2 of 7 from the field in the last game. The bad thing is he only took 7 shots. He's not a guy who racks up a ton of assists. So this is worrisome. You have Chris Middleton playing better, which took directly away from him in one game. And if Middleton's production carries over, you're not going to get much out of Eric Bledsoe. You have Brogdon playing increased minutes, which I said he was going to play, if not for the blowout, 33 minutes in the last game. And you have George Hill continuing not to be the best offensively, but at least he's giving something on the defensive end. And really, it's not that hard to be better than Eric Bledsoe offensively right now. So Bledsoe is the guy who's suffering here in his minutes. Only played 20 in the last game. Sure, he would have seen 23 or 24 with the blowout run. I only have him projected for 25, and there's no reason he doesn't see 28 once again. You could take 2 off of Brogdon, who'll only see 30, and it's very easy to make that work. And maybe as the time goes on, I will. But there's some places to take a stand. Now, Bledsoe is very, very close to that Chris Middleton range that was yesterday for me, being just underpriced, being underappreciated, going to go under-owned, being all this negative talk about his play as of late. And Bledsoe is still a great player. But in these playoffs, he hasn't played well. So I don't know if it's a spot. I don't know if he's just in a slump, and it just so happened to be in this series. But I think the matchup with Kyle Lowry is not great for him. I think then if anything switches and he gets a switch, Danny Green or even Norman Powell out there is not great for him either. And then you just go down the line of Siakam, Leonard, and Gasol, and it's just not great. So I'm very tempted right now. Like, I want to put a gray box on him because I'm torn, but we're going to go black. Eric Bledsoe's not in the player pool. I want to say this, though. I think he's very close at that price point to the Chris Middleton of yesterday where I wanted a lot of him. But it's scary because Middleton's minutes weren't coming down due to poor play as so much as some blowouts, as so much as one game of foul trouble. Bledsoes are coming down due to board play, and his teammates in Malcolm Brogdon directly taking his minutes instead of a George Hill's minutes there. So that's where I'm at with that. So we got 4 players out of this player pool. We're down to 13. I like that. We go below this 5K range here. Nikola Mirotic, 4,800. Look, he had 25 minutes without those last 3 minutes. I don't know if he would have closed the game out, but he would have played 28 minutes in the last game. I have him at 26 for this next game. I have him at a point per minute, and he grades out pretty nice. 23.5 points for 4,800 as a median projection. Sure, that's enough to stay in the player pool. Norman Powell, look, he has been great. He, during the regular season, was a 0.73 or a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy right around there. The last 2 games he's been playing extremely well, right around 1 point per minute. I have him at 0.9 today. He's 4,400. This is another guy who they just have not put the price up high enough. If you're telling me that this guy is going to now be playing 30 minutes in the postseason or 30 minutes plus in the postseason, sure, he's not the greatest point per minute guy in the world, but he's just going to fall into some points there. This is different than Alfonso McKinney because that's just a totally different team in the Warriors where their usage is just absolutely dominated by Steph, and then the other shots are dominated by Clay, and Draymond gets everything else. So this is not Alfonso McKinney, who was a 0.6 fantasy point per minute guy. This is Norman Powell, who was a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy, which is a big difference. We did it yesterday. It's like a 6-point difference. So I have Powell projected for 26.89, so right around 27 fantasy points today if he sees 32 minutes. With a neutral matchup is what I have him at. If you put him down to 30, he still grades out well at 25.21 if you wanted to say he's not going to see 32 minutes. I think that Norman Powell is a guy that I kind of won in all my lineups once again. You're not being different there. I don't imagine so. But he's $4,400 for guys seeing around 30-plus minutes. And it's not Danny Green where you're just relying on him to get you 3 rebounds and hope that he knocks down his 3 or 4 threes. So for that reason, I'm going to block out Danny Green. Danny Green is still starting. Danny Green has been seeing, although this past game, he saw about 25 minutes. And backspace, unblack out Danny Green. He saw 25 minutes. He was going to see around 28. I have him at 26 today. He grades out really bad. He's been playing so terrible in the playoffs. 0.7 fantasy points per minute in the playoffs. That's down from about a 0.77 guy. So, I mean, if you want to just say realistically on the season, he would grade out about 2 points higher than today. But he's just been so bad in these playoffs. And the usage is being sucked up by Kawhi so much more than the regular season that it's really nothing left for Danny Green outside of some kick-out threes that he just hasn't been making. So, Danny Green, although I think it's a decent pivot since he's still starting and there's not many pivot options, I'm going to black him out. We're down to 12 players in the player pool. I think George Hill is still fine. Have him projected for 27. That's what he got in the last game. That's what we had him projected after the last game. He's still too cheap at $3,600. He was $5,400, and now his price gets bumped down after one bad game, and I have him projected for 21.5 points. George Hill is my favorite cheap end option. George Hill is my favorite option from $5,000 or from $4,000 or below, and there's only a few of them, but it's clearly George Hill due to the minutes. Ursan Ilias over the last guy, $2,000. This is just your dart throw. So I'm very tempted to go to 11 players in this player pool and not have, and I've said very tempted a lot. That might be a drinking game. Cheers, drink some coffee. Here we go. That's still hot. Oh my God. Tastes good though. I'm going to leave Ursan in. Ursan, whatever you want me to call him. People saying I'm saying his name wrong. Who cares? Ursan, I'm going to leave in because he's $2,000. And if you wanted to be a crazy person and play Ursan here and believe that he is going to do anything, of 17 minutes, once again, maybe 18 minutes, maybe a point per minute, get you around close to 18 to 20 points, and you need that, that's fine. $2,000, I think it's cheap enough to Pat Connaughton only seeing 8 to 10 minutes a game as a shooting guard is not good. A power forward closer to the basket seeing 15 to 18 minutes a game, and I have him projected at his low end at the same or around the same price point at 2,000. I'm fine leaving that in there. So I'll leave Ursan in. That is a 12-person player pool. And if just to quickly recap it, I like Giannis over Kawhi in terms of the captain on the high end. Then Kawhi is my second favorite captain option. Should not be that terribly difficult to understand those two things, although that the past 2 games have been Siakam and Middleton, those second best players on each team, you can say. That's not, if you play this out 100 times, the majority of the captain spots are going to be taken by Giannis and Kawhi because they're just that good of players and they're seeing that much more minutes in the regular season. So those two. For 3, give me a discounted Pascal Siakam here, who is over, this is an overcorrection in his price and an overcorrection in Chris Middleton's price, who comes up $2,000. It's going to be probably a lot tougher for me to want to get to Middleton this next game. 1, due to price. 2, due to he just had his explosion game, you can call it. And there's no reason he can't do it again. But if the ownership is going to outweigh that and say that he's going to do that again more times than he actually will, then I'm not going to be going there nearly as much. Kyle Lowry is meh to me. If he gets in my lineup, it's fine. He's 8,800. He doesn't grade out well in terms of fantasy points. per minute and just or just in terms of overall fantasy points with this defensive matchup that he's going up against. We could actually boost the defensive matchup just barely for Kyle Lowry. I think that gets him to about 34 minutes or 34 fantasy points. Still doesn't grade out as well as some guys cheaper than him, like Siakam, like Marc Gasol, for me. So going back down this a little bit, Malcolm Brogdon, $7,000. I think it's interesting. He was going to see increased minutes, like we said. So Malcolm Brogdon is a fringe play for me. If he gets in my lineup, it's fine. Marc Gasol is the guy that I am going to play. If I have one lineup, I will play Marc Gasol. I'll try and leave money on the table or be different elsewhere. I think he's the fourth best captain option, but I also think he's the biggest leverage option in terms of if you want to be contrarian. Marc Gasol has had 2 good games in a row. One of them was because he saw an extra 10 minutes. Marc Gasol has not been playing this well. He's playing over his head right now for the playoffs. He's a good player, but not this well. He's been playing in or scoring in the mid to high 20s for most of the games. Brook Lopez will outscore Marc Gasol some percentage of the time, 1 out of 5 games. Maybe even 1 out of 4 games. So people are going to be owning Marc Gasol way more than Brook Lopez. I might make that pivot if I enter multiple lineups. That's it. We talked about the value plays. Norman Powell's a really good play. George Hill's a really good play. Ersan, if you're a crazy person in tournaments. And Nikola Mirotic is just meh, but I think that he can go under owned because he's so meh. So thank you guys so much. Thank you girls so much. If you enjoyed this content, please hit it with a like before you go. Drop down in the comments who in the $6,000 or below range, $6,000 starting at Brook Lopez, will be scoring the most fantasy points. For $10 PayPal, have to be a subscriber, have to be a liker of the video. So that's it. My name's Sal. Best of luck, everybody. You already know my name. Peace out.